Welcome to a design revolution that is quite literally curving the way we think about modern homes. For decades, when we pictured a house, we thought of boxes, square rooms, sharp 90-degree angles, flat walls, and predictable rooflines. But what happens when we throw away the box altogether? What happens when we look to history, strip away the excess, and embrace the continuous, sweeping arch? Today, we are taking a deep dive into the fascinating world of modern Quonset hut homes. We are going to explore how these iconic, semicircular steel structures, originally born out of sheer military necessity during World War II, have been brilliantly reimagined. They are no longer just utilitarian storage sheds or airplane hangars. They are rapidly becoming the ultimate canvas for sustainable, minimalistic, and breathtakingly beautiful modern living. If you are an architecture enthusiast, an aspiring off-grid homeowner, or simply someone who appreciates the beauty of doing more with less, you are in the right place. We are going to break down the interior design ideas, the structural realities, and the sustainable philosophies that make Quonset living so unique. Sit back, relax, and let's explore the art of living inside the curve. To truly appreciate the modern Quonset hut interior, we first have to understand where it came from. The Quonset hut was engineered in 1941 at the Quonset Point Naval Air Station in Rhode Island. The military needed a building that could be shipped anywhere in the world, assembled quickly by unskilled labor, and withstand extreme weather conditions without collapsing. The solution was a corrugated, galvanized steel arch. It was a masterpiece of frugal, indestructible engineering. Fast forward to the 21st century. A new generation of architects, DIY builders, and eco-conscious homeowners looked at these metal shells and saw something completely different. They saw an uninterrupted, column-free interior space. They saw a structure that required incredibly few materials to build. They saw the ultimate minimalist envelope. The transition from a military barracks to a high-end minimalist home relies entirely on interior design. The exterior is inherently industrial, rugged, and unyielding. The magic happens when you cross the threshold. The contrast between the tough, corrugated steel shell outside and a warm, refined, carefully curated interior is visually intoxicating. It is this exact tension between the industrial and the domestic, the hard and the soft, that makes Quonset hut interiors so compelling. Let's talk about why these structures are a darling of the sustainable housing movement. True sustainability isn't just about putting solar panels on a roof. It starts with the bones of the building itself. First, consider the materials. Quonset huts are primarily made of steel, which is one of the most recycled materials on the planet. The manufacturing process of a steel arch creates very little waste compared to traditional wood framing. Because the arch is a self-supporting geometric marvel, it requires significantly fewer building materials overall. You do not need massive load-bearing interior walls, heavy timber trusses, or complex roofing systems. The wall is the roof. The roof is the wall. Minimalist interior design fits perfectly into this ethos. Minimalism isn't about living in an empty, sterile room. It's about intentionality. It is the practice of stripping away the unnecessary so that the essential can speak. In a Quonset hut, the architectural shape is the star of the show. Minimalist design choices, clean lines, uncluttered surfaces, and purposeful furniture selection allow the sweeping curve of the ceiling to remain the focal point. When you fill a Quonset hut with too much clutter or overly ornate furniture, it fights the architecture. When you lean into minimalism, the home feels spacious, serene, and profoundly grounded. Because a Quonset hut is completely self-supporting, the interior is a blank, column-free void. You can leave it 100% open from front to back, or you can carve it up however you like. For a minimalist and sustainable interior, keeping the space as open as possible is highly recommended. An open floor plan maximizes the flow of natural light and allows air to circulate efficiently, which is crucial for passive heating and cooling. However, a massive, uninterrupted tunnel can sometimes feel overwhelming, much like a warehouse. The design trick here is zoning without walls. You create distinct visual rooms using furniture, rugs, and lighting. Imagine a massive textured wool rug anchoring the living room space. Above it, a large dramatic pendant light drops from the high central arch to visually lower the ceiling and create intimacy over the seating area. A few feet away, a different flooring material, perhaps polished concrete, transitions into the kitchen area, which is defined by a massive monolithic kitchen island. You haven't built a single interior wall, yet the mind perfectly understands where the living room ends and the kitchen begins. Let's step away from aesthetics for a moment and talk about a harsh, factual reality of living in a steel building. Steel is a massive thermal bridge. It conducts heat and cold rapidly. If you leave a steel Quonset hut uninsulated, it will be an oven in the summer, a freezer in the winter, and worst of all, it will literally rain inside due to condensation. This is where the science of sustainable interior design takes center stage. The absolute best and practically the only effective way to insulate a Quonset hut is using closed-cell spray foam. Spray foam expands to fill every single corrugation, creating a seamless, airtight vapor barrier. It stops condensation dead in its tracks and provides incredible structural rigidity. From a design perspective, once the foam is in, you have a choice. You can leave the foam exposed and paint it, which gives a highly textured, cave-like industrial feel. But for a refined minimalist home, most people choose to frame out the interior and cover the insulation. This is done by building curved ribs out of wood or light-gauge steel that mirror the exterior arch, leaving a gap for the foam. You can then finish the interior with drywall, which creates a smooth, clean, modern arch. Alternatively, you can finish the ceiling in tongue-and-groove wood, like cedar or pine, which instantly warms up the space, softens the acoustics, and gives the home the feeling of a luxurious, inverted wooden boat hull. Lighting a Quonset hut is an art form. The long, tunnel-like shape means that the center of the home can become very dark if you only have windows on the front and back walls. The two flat ends of the building, the end walls, are your primary sources of natural light. Sustainable design dictates that we maximize these. In a modern Quonset, the end walls are almost entirely glass. Large sliding doors, custom triangular windows that follow the arch, and massive picture windows blur the line between indoors and outdoors. To bring light into the center of the tunnel, skylights are essential. Installing skylights on a curved steel roof requires precise engineering, but the payoff is immense. A few well-placed skylights completely change the dynamic of the home, transforming it from a dark cave into a bright, soaring gallery. For artificial lighting, minimalism is key. Avoid dangling dozens of lights from the ceiling. Instead, use uplighting. By placing warm LED strip lights on top of partition walls or behind large pieces of furniture, you can bounce light off the vast, curved ceiling. This creates a soft, diffuse ambient glow that highlights the dramatic architecture without cluttering the visual space. Track lighting running straight down the apex, the absolute top center of the arch, is another excellent way to provide functional light while emphasizing the length and symmetry of the building. Because the exterior of a Quonset hut is unyielding, cold steel, the interior material palette must work overtime to bring warmth, comfort, and human scale to the space. If you use too much metal and glass inside, the home will feel like a laboratory. The foundation of a great Quonset interior is texture. Polished concrete floors are incredibly popular. They are durable, cost-effective, and excellent for thermal mass. If you design a sustainable home with passive solar heating, the concrete floor will absorb the sun's heat during the day and slowly release it at night. But concrete is visually cold. To counter this, introduce rich, warm woods. Walnut, oak, and birch are perfect choices for kitchen cabinetry, custom built-ins, and furniture. The organic, unpredictable grain of natural wood provides a beautiful visual counterweight to the precise engineered geometry of the building. Textiles are equally important. Because the building is essentially an acoustic echo chamber, sound absorption is a functional necessity. Heavy linen curtains on the end walls, large, thick area rugs, upholstered headboards, and plenty of throw pillows are not just decorative, they act as acoustic dampeners. They absorb sound waves, preventing them from bouncing around the metal curve, turning a noisy, echoey hall into a quiet, serene sanctuary. The kitchen is often the heart of the home, but in a Quonset hut, it presents a fascinating puzzle. The standard rule of kitchen design, upper cabinets mounted to the wall, simply does not work on a surface that is aggressively curving away from you. The solution? Ditch the upper cabinets. This perfectly aligns with a minimalist ethos anyway. Instead of building up, you build out. The kitchen island becomes the absolute powerhouse of the space. A massive, deep island can house your sink, your dishwasher, your oven, and an incredible amount of deep drawer storage. If you place the kitchen against the curved sidewall, you use standard lower cabinets. Then, instead of upper cabinets, you use the curved wall above the counter as a dramatic design feature. You can tile it, paint it a bold accent color, or leave the corrugated steel exposed for an industrial pop. Alternatively, many designers choose to place the entire kitchen against one of the flat end walls. This allows for standard floor-to-ceiling cabinetry and maximizes storage, leaving the entire curved portion of the building completely open and devoted to living and dining spaces. When it comes to bedrooms, the curved architecture of a Quonset hut creates an unexpected psychological benefit. It triggers an innate sense of safety and coziness. The arch mimics the feeling of a cave, a tent, or a protective shell. To maximize this feeling, minimalist bedroom design focuses on low-profile furniture. A platform bed or a mattress resting directly on a beautiful wooden base keeps the eye line low and makes the sweeping ceiling feel even more expansive. Tall headboards or massive dressers visually fight the curve and make the room feel cramped. If the Quonset hut is large enough, particularly the taller semicircular models, building a loft is a brilliant way to add square footage without increasing the building's footprint. By framing a mezzanine level above the bathroom or kitchen, you utilize the vertical volume of the arch. A lofted bedroom nestled right under the curve of the roof is the ultimate retreat. It is private, quiet, and intimately scaled. Bathrooms in a Quonset hut require careful planning, largely because plumbing needs to be heavily insulated and protected from the exterior walls. The most successful Quonset bathrooms embrace the concept of a wet room. Because the walls are curved, installing a standard square glass shower enclosure can be a geometric nightmare. Instead, waterproofing the entire space and using a curbless, open shower design allows the water to flow seamlessly without fighting the shape of the room. For the walls, small flexible tiles like penny tiles or small mosaics are excellent because they can easily conform to the curve of the architecture. Another increasingly popular, sustainable option is microcement or Totolact, a traditional Moroccan waterproof plaster. These materials can be troweled directly onto the curved surfaces, creating a completely seamless, continuous finish that feels incredibly organic, spa-like, and luxurious. A freestanding bathtub is almost a necessity in a luxury Quonset bathroom because you cannot easily push a standard tub against a curved wall. Placing a sculptural freestanding tub slightly off the wall, perhaps under a dedicated skylight, turns a functional necessity into a striking piece of art.